Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, TV, streaming, some other good stuff as well. And it is Friday, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, Fridays are the new Thursdays, and that means Aaron Cummings and Joey Bishop is here. How you doing, guys?
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're watching from. Miss Bishop is feeling so much better.
Yeah, what, she pulled something in her back, or she pulled a muscle?
She pinched a nerve in her back, and of course it was a lot of vet visits to try to figure out what that was. But she finally is all healed, had some nice steroids and some really yummy muscle relaxers that made her eyes roll back in her head and made mommy want to steal some of baby's bills. But she's doing much better. So she's here to join us, and I'm just going to put her over to sleep. And also
never say you're putting a dog to sleep.
Sorry. We're just gonna let her sit on the chair to rest her little
back.
Yes.
I don't know. We haven't talked about this since you walked in the door because we were talking about other things, but two significant deaths today.
DMX. I know DMX. Well,
DMX passed away.
Yeah.
Which I was really surprised to hear about, and I still haven't read up anything about the details of his passing.
All I know is that he had a heart attack, and then he was he had a heart attack, and then he was in a coma, and has been in a coma for a while. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and and only 50, and a lot of his friends and family, and obviously, his fans. I saw him in concert back in the day, and really an incredible performer who also, from what I've heard of, like now people are coming out and sharing some stories about what a kind-hearted human he was as well, and just the little things that he did for people out of those random acts of kindness that just don't really get talked about. But so definitely condolences to anyone out there who is mourning his loss, and of course to our friends across the pond who are mourning the loss of Prince Philip today.
Yeah. As a Canadian, a lot of people, Americans forget that technically speaking, theoretically speaking, Queen Elizabeth is our official head of government for Canadians. A lot of Americans don't know that. And Anne is a royal family fanatic.
Yes, I do know that she's a big fan of the Crown.
She was very sad this morning.
Really?
Yeah, she was really sad this morning. She's like, poor Elizabeth and whatever. But I mean, Philip,
he was 99 years old. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not saying that it's not sad when anyone passes.
No, not at all.
Obviously, the people closest to that person feel that loss, and I 100% get that. I also, if I make it to 99,
you've done well.
Please celebrate the long life that I have done, that I have lived, and the accomplishments that I have made. So yes, it is certainly always, our feelings and our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts go to anyone mourning a loss, and specifically the loss of a young life like DMX, and a talent like that is certainly very just doubly sad, especially a sudden and unexpected passing. So really sad Friday.
Yeah, sad way to start.
But a wonderful opportunity for those of us who are not personally affected to remember the legacy that these people leave behind, and in DMX's case, the artistry that they leave behind. So
anyway, guys, with that being said, we are so glad that you decided to spend some of your day with us here today on this Friday. Congratulations to making it through to the end of another week. May you have a wonderful weekend planned ahead of yourselves, filled with enjoyment, relaxation, whatever you need to do to charge your batteries for another week of triumph and victory a little bit later on. Here's how today's show is going to go, guys. We're going to start off the first half of the show by taking some predetermined topics. We're going to do that in just a second. And then the second half of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. Simply use the tip link that you'll see in the description of the video below if you want to send in something for that. Now, before we get into our main topics today, let's start things off with one off the top, and that is this. One of the movies that gets talked about. Yeah, every once in a while, there's these movies that come along that it's like, yeah, I don't know that that's ever going to happen. The New Gods one that Ava DuVernay was supposed to do, I never really thought that one was gonna happen. But we've all heard about these movies being developed, and we think, I don't think that's gonna happen. One such movie for me is Indiana Jones 5. They keep saying they're gonna do it,
right?
And they keep doing it. That being said, I never thought Indiana Jones 4 was ever gonna happen either. And lo and behold, well, we wish it never happened, but
did it happen? I think that I must.
Are we in denial about that one?
I think that I've just kind of blocked that one out. What was it? Indiana Jones and the what is it called?
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, even the title should have told us.
I know. I feel like that just sounds like no disrespect to animation, but it sounds like an animated cartoon.
It does. It really does. It sounds like something that Robot Chicken would parody for them or something like that. So they've been talking about Indiana Jones 5 for a while. A lot of drama. Steven Spielberg was going to do. First of all, it had tons of delays. This thing was supposed to be in theater a while ago. Had tons of delays. Then Steven Spielberg leaves. Then we got the director of Logan come on board with it, which is very exciting and cool. They keep saying they're going to do it. Well, this morning we actually got some concrete stuff that makes it look like maybe they actually are moving forward with it. By the way, Iconic Reaction sends us a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Iconic. And that is in the form of a casting of one of the hottest talents in Hollywood right now. Deadline is reporting, and Walt Disney sent out a publicity statement saying Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who, of course, tons of awards for Fleabag. She's one of the writers on the new James Bond film. She's got that Mr. and Mrs. Smith coming up. With Childish
She's also
Gambino.
a writer on what's that show that I love that I hate the name? Killing Eve.
That's right. She's an executive producer and a writer on Killing Eve.
Yeah.
She is like one of the hottest names in the business right now. Well, now add on top of that, she's now going to be a part of one of the most iconic film franchises in film history with Indiana Jones 5. This comes to us from Deadline writes, following the confirmation at the Disney investors presentation in December that the next film was a go, Lucasfilm and director James Mangold, who of course directed Logan, looked to have their sights set on Harrison Ford's first new co-star in the new installment of the Indiana Jones franchise. Sources tell Deadline Phoebe Waller-Bridge is set to co-star opposite Ford in the fifth installment, with Ford returning as everyone's favorite fedora-wearing, whip-slinging archaeologist. And again, a few moments after this report came out, I got an email from Disney publicity saying, Phoebe Waller-Bridge is in Indiana Jones 5. So it's like, okay. First of all, let's talk about this for a second. She really is one of the hottest people in the business right now. Because not only is she also doing, Mr. and Mrs. Smith with Gambino, she's also an executive producer on that. Killing Eve is one of the hottest shows in the world. It's fantastic. I don't know if you guys watch Killing Eve.
It's so good.
Robert Meyer Burnett was the first one to turn me on to that show. And it's fantastic. And then, of course, all the acclaim she got for Fleabag, and now she's writing James Bond, and now she's going to be in Indiana Jones. So good time to be Phoebe Waller-Bridge. This is a good time to be her. For Indiana Jones 5, number one, it's never a mistake to add talent, and they're obviously adding great talent here. So good on them for that. The first word, though, that still comes to my mind when I think of Indiana Jones is why? Of Indiana Jones 5. Now, don't get me wrong. I love movies. I get a special place in my heart for action films with older leads. I think it's great. Whether you're talking about Expendables or you're talking about some other things like that. I just watched Nobody with Bob Odenkirk, and Christopher Lloyd plays his dad.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either, Todd. I was in the theater watching
Okay.
it, and he's got like an action kind of thing, and I'm like, yeah. Harrison Ford today, I believe, is like 7 or 8 years older than Sean Connery was when he was playing his dad in the last one. So, I mean, I don't know. I still, call me a doubting Thomas, but I still have my doubts that this movie actually gets made. But it does look like they're moving forward with it. Anyway, Aaron, you heard about this. What do you think about Waller-Bridge joining Indiana Jones 5?
You know what I love about Phoebe Waller-Bridge is that she is such a beautiful example of how hard work and talent are really the secrets of success. Everybody, no, I shouldn't say the word everybody. A lot of people always look for what's that thing and what's the magic key and what should I do? And everybody's looking for a quick fix on how do I become a super successful actor? How do I become a super successful writer? How do I become a super successful producer? And Phoebe Waller-Bridge she came onto the scene with Fleabag as the leading lady of this show that was, arguably almost a British version of Sex and the City. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the first 10 minutes of Fleabag, the first episode, the first season, it goes there. It goes there. And that's what I always say whenever I was telling my friends about this. My friend James McDaniel, who's an actor who was on NYPD Blue for 13 years. He played Detective Fancy. He was the one who said, there is this show starring and written by this incredible woman that no one is talking about. And you got to watch this show. And so I watched it. I fell in love with it. And then, of course, it just exploded. Her career exploded. But then you find out that she's got her fingers in all of these pots. She's just been doing the work, you know, and she didn't come on the scene as what at the time was described as the traditional great beauty, but she came in as this leading lady playing this role that was so captivating and so electric that she became the leading lady. She has rewritten what it means to be a leading lady in Hollywood and is now playing those roles that were previously given to people that fit in a certain box. And that is what I absolutely love about her, is that she is proof that the rules are not written in stone. And that if you have talent and you work your ass off, that you can create whatever reality you want. You can look at someone like Angelina Jolie and go, you know what? I look nothing like her. I am nothing like her, but I'm going to play that role. And she's doing it. It's like I love that about her. And so I think that she's a phenomenal talent, an incredible beauty, a brilliant writer, and I just have a lot of respect for her. And I think that she's certainly someone that everyone in the industry who's looking for the key or the one answer she's a really good role model to follow as an artist.
Yeah, and she's not just, the other thing that's so impressive about her is that she's not just acting. I mean,
she's
executive producing,
doing
writing, and you can have a good debate about at which one is she having the most success at right now. Now we just got to wait for her to, get a feature film as a director and see what she can do.
I mean, look at Tina Fey. She has a bit of a Tina Fey aspect.
She does.
To her.
There's a Tina Feyism about her, isn't there? Yeah.
Right, because even like Tina Fey, she wrote Mean Girls, which was one of the biggest hits of the 2000s. I don't remember exactly what year it came out, but even still, it spawned a Broadway show, and it launched Lindsay Lohan's career even further than where it was at that point. Rachel McAdams did wonders for her as well. And even though it was a comedy, it still had like these messages that were universal that everyone could relate to. So a lot of similarities there as well.
Question is for you guys. What do you think about this news? I still don't think this movie's going to happen despite all the evidence to the contrary. But now they're saying Phoebe Waller-Bridge, one of the hottest talents in Hollywood right now, has been attached to the film as well. What do you guys think? Is this movie going to happen? Will it not? What do you think about the addition of this actress? Jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's get into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them. Whenever you come across a big topic, story, or issue that you think we should make a main topic here on the John Campea Show, simply go anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question. It's totally free. Hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your submission featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get into main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Nigel Montgomery, who writes, "Hey, John, you've mentioned a few big roles in movies that were originally offered to other actors, like Will Smith in Matrix and Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones and a few others. Since your wife is such a big fan of Big, just so you guys don't know, my wife Anne, her all-time favorite movie is Big. What Star Wars is to me, that's what Big is to Anne. Anyway, I was wondering if you saw that Tom Hanks' co-star Elizabeth Perkins just revealed that Tom Hanks wasn't the original Josh. It was supposed to be Robert De Niro. How differently do you think Big would have turned out if De Niro had done the role? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And this is one I have never heard of before. Will Smith was originally supposed to be Neo. He turned it down. Tom Selleck was supposed to be Indiana Jones. He had a scheduling conflict with this new show he just signed up for called Magnum PI. Worked out pretty well for him anyway.
Yeah.
But I have never personally heard of this one. Now, of course, like I said, I've got a special connection to Big because Big is Anne's all-time favorite movie. Like, actually, for her birthday, she had asked, because you know how we were able to book a private theater at AMC so we could go watch Indiana Jones?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Anne was asking, because they have certain numbers of new movies you can pick from. Anne had me reach out to AMC to say, can you get Big? Because what Anne wanted for her birthday was a private theater and a screening of Big with her and a couple of family members and a couple of friends. They weren't able to make it happen, but that's fine. I get it. It's no problem. But I have never heard of this. This was Tom Hanks was around before Big, but this is the thing that defined him at the time. This is kind of what set him up. And when you look at Big now and the character of Josh, it's almost like looking at Tony Stark being played by Robert Downey Jr. It is very, very difficult to divorce in our minds that actor playing that role. But Tom Hanks playing Josh in this thing, Robert De Niro playing this role in this movie.
It's hard to imagine.
I can't even wrap my head around it. Anyway, for those of you guys who, wait, how do you guys know this? Well, this is what came to us. Elizabeth Perkins, who was, of course, the female lead in Big, she was recently being interviewed, and she said Robert De Niro was actually cast in the role of Josh in the movie Big. It fell apart because he had a scheduling conflict, and then they went to Tom Hanks. It's like a totally different movie in my brain with Robert De Niro. And of course it is. And Elizabeth Perkins plays the most celebrated pedophile in all of movie history. We don't like to talk about it, but it's the dirty little secret of Big.
And then there's Rob Lowe.
But I am trying to wrap my head around this. And I just can't do it. I cannot get my head around the idea of Robert De Niro playing this role. But to be fair, I have a hard time imagining anybody other than Tom Hanks playing the role, but Robert De Niro particularly, that I can't picture Robert De Niro playing that playful child as an adult. Now, he's one of the world's great actors, so I'm sure he would have found a way to pull it off. But I know, Aaron, when you look back on this and you hear about this, could De Niro have stepped in and just done kind of exactly what Tom Hanks did? Or I don't know, do you think Big would have been the same way? It's kind of charmed. What do you think about this?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. Just like we have Campea Classroom today, it is time for Aaron Cummings' class in history. So according to Penny Marshall's biography, here is actually the story. So because at the time, Penny Marshall was coming off of her success directing her first film, which was Jumpin' Jack Flash with Whoopi Goldberg. And Jim Brooks came and put this script for Big on her desk. She didn't know anything about it. She just read the script and said, oh my God, this is amazing. Started going after people for the project. Tom Hanks turns it down. Who else was really big at the time? Dances with Wolves.
Kevin Costner?
Kevin Costner turned it down. All the big people in Hollywood at the time turned it down. On top of that, the problem was that there were other these like body swap. There was like Father Like Son with Kirk Cameron that was coming out. There was Vice Versa with Fred Savage and Judge Reinhold that was coming out. There were like 4 of these, body swapper movies that were coming out that year. And nobody really was interested in doing the movie. So Penny Marshall called her buddy, Robert De Niro, who had obviously done like Raging Bull and Taxi Driver and Untouchables and had done a lot of these dramatic films. He was actually looking to do a more family-friendly comedy. And so she sent him the script, said, read this movie, let me know what you think. And he goes, yeah, you know what? This is cute. This is what I'm looking to do. I want to I want to diversify, I want to get bigger. So anyway, so Robert De Niro is thinking, sure, why the fuck not? So Penny Marshall goes, holy shit, we got Robert De Niro doing this. Well, then Jim Brooks, who's now producing in the studio, they were like, no, we're not interested. And she goes, no, like it's Robert De Niro. They go, we don't think he's right. We want actually Dick Tracy.
Who
Warren
misread
Beatty. We want Warren
who
Beatty
misread the Oscar winner the other year. Yes.
Yes, exactly. We want Warren Beatty to do it. So Penny Marshall goes to dinner with Warren Beatty and says, all right, yeah, you want to do this movie? He's like, I want to do the movie. And she goes, here's my question though. Will you take my direction? And he said it in the most polite way possible, but he said definitively, no, I will not take your direction. And she said, okay, well, this isn't going to work. So she went back to the studio, said, it's got to be Robert De Niro. And De Niro at that point had heard about what some of his contemporaries in the family comedy space were being paid, like Chevy Chase and John Candy. And so he said, okay, I'm Robert De Niro, and even though I haven't done these comedies, I want to make what they're making. The studio said, absolutely not. And Penny goes, come on, pay him what? So Jim said, how about this? You want him to get paid so much money? Give him your salary. And so Penny said, okay, I will. So she went to Robert De Niro and said, I will pay you my salary on top of what they're paying you to make up the difference.
I never knew this.
It's in her biography. I will give you my salary to make up the difference. He said, I appreciate you saying that, but no, that's not how it works. Like we're partners in this. We got to work together. And if they're not willing to pay me, then I don't want to do it. It's not worth it, which I understand. Nobody works in a hostile work environment where they're clearly not wanted. And so he said, you know what? I'm out. But at that point, the hubbub had been like, holy shit, Robert De Niro wants to do this movie. So at that point, Kevin Costner was like, hey, Penny, what's up with that big movie? At that point, it was now the big talk of town. So that's how they were able to bring Tom Hanks back into the conversation. So technically, yes, Robert De Niro, it would have been a very different movie. And he even said that, according to her biography, like it was going to be much more of like an existential crisis piece than a lighthearted, playful comedy as it was with Tom Hanks. However, I think that we do ultimately still have to give thanks to Robert De Niro, because had he not thrown his name in the hat
and given it
thrown his hat in the ring,
the gravitas to it,
the prestige, and ultimately it led to Penny Marshall being the first woman director in history to reach $100 million at the box office.
That's right.
Yeah. And also, so John Lovitz, who plays a small role in the film. The reason his role is so small, part of it is because he got sick with the flu partway through filming, and then he said, he goes, I felt better, and I thought about calling Penny and saying, hey, I'm better. Do you want to like throw me back in the movie? Because they had cut down his part. I feel better. And he goes, but then I thought, screw it. This movie is really going to go anywhere anyway. And he goes, and then of course the movie becomes a big hit, and he goes, I'm an idiot. So
a little bit of history on the movie, babe.
There you go. And this is your history lesson from Aaron Cummings' classroom. You are welcome.
That was awesome. Well stated on that so much. I love hearing the story of these movies that we know. By the way, Connor Smith and I Need Some Old School in My Life sent in super chat badges. Thank you guys. Appreciate that. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this story? Number one, can you picture Robert De Niro playing Josh in Big? And then also hearing all the drama that went on behind the scenes to make it even happen in the first place. What do you guys think about it? Jump on down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Tommy Lee Jones. Wow, Tommy Lee Jones writes in, hey, John and crew. Deadline just reported that amazing actress Renee Elsie Goldsberry, Elise, sorry, I just know her as Angelica, will be co-starring with Tatiana Maslany, a good Canadian girl, by the way, in the She-Hulk series. What are your thoughts on this, and who do you think she will be playing? Thank you. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, one of the big surprise announcements that they made at D23, it feels like it was 5 years ago now, but it was when Kevin Feige came out on stage. He announced a bunch of things, including, a Moon Knight series, including a number of things. But one of the things that he mentioned that caught a lot of people by surprise, including me, was that they were going to do a She-Hulk movie, or a She-Hulk series on Disney+. which was just crazy. Then they announced that they got Tatiana to play the lead, and of course everybody lost their minds. Then we heard that Ruffalo was probably going to be doing at least a guest appearance in it to some degree or another. And if you understand the history, she is of course Bruce Banner's cousin, and for some reason my phone's going off. It should have been turned off. But yes, lots of stuff going on. Now we haven't heard a lot about it since. Not a lot since. But this news is really quite great because I've watched Hamilton about 100 times. Anyway, this comes to us from the folks over at Deadline, who writes, Goldsberry would play a character referred to as Amelia. I don't recognize the name Amelia, so this is probably a new character for the show. Ginger Gonzalez was recently cast as Walter's best friend. As announced at Disney's Investors Day, Avengers star Mark Ruffalo will reprise his role as the Hulk. And Tim Roth, this was the exciting thing to me. Tim Roth is reprising his Hulk character of the Abomination on She-Hulk. So I've been a little bit hooked on that little piece of information because Abomination is a character I have been wanting them to bring back for a long time. So I was very excited about that. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Having Goldsberry in there, and again, you may not have ever watched Hamilton. Maybe you certainly probably haven't watched it as much as me or my wife, and we really, really love Hamilton. To see her popping up in this is great. And she was just, speaking of Tina Fey, she was just cast as a lead in a Tina Fey produced show that's coming up as well. I'm trying to remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I'll look that up in just a second. To me, this is fantastic news. Again, it's never a mistake to add talent. This girl has got on-camera charisma for miles. This is great, and it's always good to hear about more progress being made on shows like this. So I personally love this. Aaron, you heard about this story. What do you make of this?
I felt the exact same way. Tom got us tickets for Hamilton for my birthday in 2016. And I just think that she is phenomenal. She's an incredible talent. And it's exactly what you just said. You're never going to go wrong when you add talent, and especially a Tony Award-winning talent for such a memorable role in Hamilton. I mean, I've heard interviews of her talking about how when the song that she sings at the wedding, that then goes in reverse, and all of the meticulous training that was required just to be able to say all those words in such a manner. It was so quick and so specific. And then to be able to do the exact same song again, but with the complete opposite intention. Yep. I mean, that really is such a tour de force role in a show that has so many tour de force roles. It's really hard to be the standout in a show of standouts. And so I think that all this does is just further continues to elevate. I don't mean it elevates, because it already, the addition of Mark Ruffalo and Tim Roth, already when I see the film stars saying, I'm going to do the TV show, we know that Marvel has done that before. We obviously have, Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan doing Falcon and Winter Soldier. We have all the film stars doing their television counterparts. And I think that this is just setting up the entire MCU to where it's not a question. It used to be a question of, it's going to be a huge hit in your career if you did the film and then you do the television version. It was just unheard of. You just don't do that. And now it is a thing where it's all controlled by the same creative bodies. So you want to do that. You want to maintain a hold on your character. And I love the idea that these film stars from the franchise are coming over and doing She-Hulk in the way that they have with the other MCU shows. And so I just think that the addition of such a stunningly talented, Tony Award-winning performer such as Goldsberry is just further proof that this is another show in the Disney Plus slate that is just going to be, yet another extension of how great the trend is already moving forward. That sentence didn't make any sense. Let me start again. Yes, the MCU in Disney Plus is doing great things. Falcon and Winter Soldier picked up where WandaVision left off. She-Hulk is obviously going to pick up and continue to carry that torch of phenomenal programming. I'm excited to see who else they bring on board. Like, I mean, do they have scripts yet? Do we know?
Yeah, it's written apparently.
I was going to say, it would be hard to imagine that they would be able to get such talent on board without being able to provide a script.
Right. Although if you're Marvel at this point.
Right, I know. That's true.
Who doesn't take Kevin Feige's phone call at this point? I mean, I'm not sure there's an elite few. There's an elite few. Anyway, question is for you guys. What do you think about this? This is not a name I expected to hear attached to something like She-Hulk, but I'm very, very excited about it. What do you guys think about it? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Aaron W. And Aaron W. writes, "It looks like the streaming wars is definitely heating up. Sony has just made a multi-year deal that will see its films stream exclusively on Netflix or 18 months after the theatrical run, starting in 2022, with films like Uncharted and Morbius and many, many others. It makes sense seeing as Sony doesn't have its own service like HBO Max or Disney Plus. What are your thoughts on this deal?" And yeah, this news came out like a hurricane. Like it just hit out of nowhere, and yet it makes absolute perfect sense, this deal. For those of you who don't know what's going on, this comes to us from the folks over at Variety. Starting with next year's slate, all movies from the various film banners on the Culver City lot under Sony, including Columbia Pictures, Sony Pictures Classics, Screen Gems, and TriStar Pictures, remember, these are all under the Sony banner, will stream exclusively on Netflix after their theatrical and home entertainment releases. That promises to bring to Netflix future installments of Spider-Man, Venom, Jumanji, and other franchises, among others. The Pay One window usually begins about 9 months after a film's theatrical release, although that timetable may have been sped up for Netflix. And what we are hearing from Deadline is that this deal is in the neighborhood of $1 billion for these rights. Now, it gets even more lucrative on top of that. Sony is still going to make money on the standard pay scale that Netflix has on each individual movie's basis. So Sony ain't just getting that $1 billion. They're going to get money per movie that they put out on Netflix as well. It's just that for that $1 billion, it ensures that Netflix is the ones that are going to get it. On top of that, all movies that Sony produces with the intent of going straight to streaming, Netflix has the right of first refusal on those movies as well. So every movie that Sony puts out that's going to be theatrical, Netflix gets the right to those for streaming afterwards. Any movie that Sony makes that's intended for straight to streaming, Netflix has first option. Now, Netflix can buy those films, but if they turn it down, Sony is then free to take that individual film and go to HBO Max or anything like that as well. And for people asking, does this include Spider-Man? Yeah, it includes Spider-Man. Yes, this includes Spider-Man, and it includes Sony's older library. As existing streaming rights to older Sony films expire, Netflix will get to pick those up. So don't expect to see Spider-Man Homecoming on Disney Plus for long. And I'm not even sure if it's on there right now, but if it is, don't expect it to be there for long. We're going to see all that going over to Netflix. What makes this very, very interesting to me is the fact that instead of doing what Paramount did with Paramount Plus, instead of doing what Comcast and Universal did with Peacock, instead of doing what Disney has done with Disney Plus, Sony has decided to take a step back. Now, they have a couple of smaller streaming services like Crunchyroll and things like that. But
Crunchyroll?
Yeah, which is basically, it's more anime kind of stuff.
Okay.
So it's more specialized.
Got it.
So they've got stuff like that. A lot of us have been wondering and waiting, when are they going to launch Sony Plus? With their libraries and stuff like that. Sony has instead decided to make a very interesting move. With all these streaming entities, they're not going to have a lot of places they can look to get licensed content because Disney isn't going to let their content go anywhere else.
Right.
Paramount's not going to let their content go anywhere else. Comcast, Universal. So Sony, it looks like they saw this as an opportunity to say, you know what? We're going to be the only major studio that we're just going to create movies and then let the highest bidder come in, because instead of all the competition, we're kind of unique now in this space as a major studio body, and we're freelancers. They've taken advantage of that with I think it's a 4-year deal with Netflix, $1 billion just off the top, and then they're going to make money per project as well.
That's amazing.
Between this and seeing Netflix put up $450 million just for the rights, $469 million, sorry, for Knives Out 2 and 3.
I was going to say.
They are whipping their wallets around pretty heavily right now. This is a great deal for Sony. This is on its surface to me, I think this looks like a very good deal for Netflix when you look at the fact that this means Spider-Man, it means Venom, it means Morbius, it means Jumanji, it means the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse stuff, all the other things they're going to have going. This is a huge deal, and I just kept reading, and it just looks phenomenal. Anyway, Aaron, you had a chance to take a look at this. You've seen what's going on. What are some things and details in this that stand out to you, and what are your overall thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, I think that Netflix should absolutely be investigated because they clearly are printing monopoly money somewhere in the basement. Like, I don't even, I do not even understand. I can't wrap my head around the amount of money that Netflix is currently hemorrhaging on these deals. And I say good for them because they're saying we have been a dominant force in the streaming wars for years now, and they see the competition rising up. They see Disney Plus and what they're doing, which is obviously making them the one to beat at this point. They see that Apple is revving up the Apple Plus is revving up their engines. You know, they see that HBO Max is continuing to put out incredible content, and Netflix is really going, okay, in order for us to stay in the conversation and to stay at the top of the conversation, we have to continue making power moves. And I love that Sony isn't just jumping on the bandwagon and saying, oh, okay, well, we'll do a Sony Plus as well. Yeah. I think it's great for them to say, we know what we do, and we're going to keep doing what we do really, really well. But we're not going to deny the reality of the stream of the relevance of streaming. We're not going to be Blockbuster Video and pretend like streaming is going away. We're going to get in the business, but we're going to let them do what they do really well, and we're going to continue doing what we do really well. Because let's be honest, it's not an inexpensive venture for Sony to create an entirely new branch of Sony Plus. That is a big deal.
Tens of billions of dollars.
Absolutely. So I think this is a win-win for everybody. I mean, everybody if you're Netflix and Sony. I say good for both of those entities. I think this is a great power connection relationship that could last for a very long time. It'll be interesting to see if once that 4-year deal winds down, if it ends up getting re-upped or if another streaming platform kind of tries to swoop in. And it's also going to encourage Sony to keep, coming up with new franchises to be able to continue to get that big payday from Netflix. Because if Sony doesn't keep producing, after a while, yes, there will be people who get tired of watching Spider-Man. And so if after 4 years, Sony doesn't have new, fresh, hot things to offer to Netflix is going to be like, all right, we're good.
Something else a little bit lucrative here for Sony? Get this. If I'm not mistaken, so let's say they make Morbius, and then it goes on to Netflix. The terms of the deal are that Netflix only gets to have Morbius for 18 months. After 18 months, Sony can then take it and sell it to another streaming service if they want. So,
because that's considered like the pay one.
Yeah, sort of thing. So they get to put it on for 18 months. That's what that $1 billion buys them. The right to get that movie, pay Sony for it individually, and then have it for 18 months. And then after that, if Netflix still wants it, they got to negotiate again with them.
And is that 18 months after the window?
From the day it starts streaming on Netflix.
Okay.
Netflix will then get to have it for 18 months.
And does Netflix get it out of theaters at a certain point? If it's a theater?
Yeah, it'll be after the 45-day window and stuff like that. So when exactly, how far on the pay one, I'm not really sure. They weren't really clear on that in there.
I was trying to read all the pay one. That whole distribution model. I don't really understand.
Well, it's going away. It's a whole model that's going away.
Right.
But the deadline
all the articles that I could find to try to explain to me pay one were from like 2017 and 2014.
It's not a model that's addressed very much anymore.
Yeah.
But they were saying that it's a pay one model, but it's going to be significantly shortened for the Netflix deal, obviously. So I think we're probably looking just after the 45-day window. So this is monstrous. This is absolutely huge. And it means like fresh content for Netflix. It means big dollars for Sony. Guys, the question is for you. What do you think about this deal between Sony and Netflix? Where is all this money coming from, considering Netflix still operates on a loss every year? But it's there. Oh, that sweet virgin blood in your deals with Satan. Anyway, guys, what do you guys think about this? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's now move on and start taking your live comments and questions. And how do you get a live comment or question on the show? Well, it's really simple. Simply go down into the description of this video. You're going to see a tip link. Click on that tip link and get there. Or you can enter it in manually simply at www.streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's appropriate for the show. And of course, you'll be supporting the channel at the same time. And all of us here involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys very much for that support. Okay, let's jump on over and start taking your guys' questions, shall we? And by the way, Connor Smith sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, Connor. Appreciate that, man. All right, first up, we are going to go over with, who are we going with here? We are going with Boris. And Boris starts us off with, hey, John and guest, if there's one today. We do have one today.
We have two.
We have two of them. Sorry if I've missed it being brought up, but have you seen the trailer for Shadow and Bone? I thought it was a movie at first, speaking of Netflix spending a lot. I think it looks awesome. Have you seen it? I did. I was particularly interested in it because of Ben Barnes. I actually like Ben Barnes. I like Ben Barnes quite a bit. So I noticed Ben Barnes in it. It's an interesting looking show. Have you seen the trailer for this?
I don't know what you're talking about. And why are you seeming apologetic for liking Ben Barnes?
Not everybody likes Ben Barnes.
Who's Ben Barnes?
Oh, well, okay, so he was in Daredevil. Oh, sorry, he was in Punisher on Netflix. Let
me look him up. I'm sure that I've seen his face.
I like Ben Barnes very much, personally.
You just said that in a way almost like you're not supposed to like Ben Barnes.
Yeah, he was a great Jigsaw. He played a great Jigsaw.
I don't know who he is, but I like him.
He's a handsome dude, too.
He is a handsome dude.
He's a handsome dude. I gotta tell you, I wasn't thrilled with the trailer. I mean, it looks interesting, so I'm going to keep my eyes open on it, right? Like with this young girl who's this like magical map maker and all. I mean, it's interesting. And because it's that fantasy sci-fi genre, obviously you have my attention.
He was in Westworld. I remember.
Yes, that's right.
I remember him
in
Westworld.
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I got to be honest with you, I didn't love the trailer, but I am curious about the show, and I will keep my eyes open for further installments of those trailers. All right, next up, James Argento writes, I would like to see Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 because it would be something we have not seen before. Similar to how Superman deals with wife and kids and being a hero in his new show, Superman and Lois, we could see how Peter deals with having a family and serving New York City as Spider-Man. And yeah, of course, yesterday on the show, we talked about the fact that there are rumors going around, probably not true rumors at all, but there are rumors going around that Sony is interested in doing a Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 4 that they never made before. And I gave some reasons yesterday why it's not the craziest theory in the world, why it could happen. I still doubt that the story is real, and I don't really think it's happening, but it's not a crazy theory. And I'm not going to lie, I'd be kind of interested to see where they go with that. All right.
I wouldn't.
Really?
Spider-Man into the diaperverse. I don't want to see Spider-Man trying to like balance being no, I don't want to see that.
You know what? I would have said the same thing until I watched Superman and Lois, which is the new show on CW. It's really more about Superman struggling with the fact that he's got two teenage sons. He doesn't know how to be a father and still be a responsible husband and be the world's greatest hero. And I got to tell you, it has really impressed me.
Yes, I get that. And I love it for CW, where we can have a series where we really get to invest in these characters and we get to understand why, and we get to fall in love with the teenage kids and see the struggles of being a parent and having all these responsibilities. I get it. I don't want to, when I go to the movies, I want to sit there and I want to see zing, 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 zing. And then I want to close my eyes and there's a big spider. And then I want to see zing, 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 zing. I don't want to see all that other stuff. I'm sorry. I'm a purist. I want to see my superhero being a superhero. I don't want to see him being a normal person.
It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. You can do both in the same movie.
We have the TV show to show them being the normal, what it's like dealing with real people issues. And then I want to go to the movies and I want to be like, zing, 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 zing. That's all I want to see. I want to see them like fighting crime and spinning webs all over the place. That's all I want to see.
All right. Next up, we've got Nathan, who writes 1 of 5. Here we go. Buckle in. Hey, John. Regarding your talk about adult references in movies/shows that are aimed at kids the other day, this is something that has happened in many movies and TV shows over the years. Absolutely it has. But I want to specifically talk about this with regards to a show that may be the biggest perpetrator of this. That show is Rocko's Modern Life. I've never heard of it. It was a show that aired on Nickelodeon. Yeah, well, in Canada, we didn't have Nickelodeon when I was growing up, so that's probably part of the reason why. That aired on Nickelodeon in the 90s when I was a kid, and I watched the show a lot, and I loved it. It's only been the last few years that I've seen articles that have pointed out to me that they made many mature jokes throughout the show runs. One example from the show is the name of the chicken fast food restaurant that the characters would frequently go to. The restaurant was called Choky Chicken.
That's nice.
Choky Chicken. I remember as a kid, the joke completely went over my head, as it was probably designed to do.
Sure.
And I just simply thought it was a dumb name. And why of all possible names did they call it that? Now I know most of the jokes in a similar way went over my head. But I do look back on that show with fond memories. I just thought I'd share my memories seeing this sort of stuff as a kid. And first of all, Nathan, thank you for sharing that. Now I will be thinking about Choky Chicken all day. Listen. This came up from a conversation. I don't know if you've ever seen this. You're familiar with the Animaniacs? Yakko, Wacko, and Doc. So the conversation came up the other day about adult references and Easter eggs that are made for adults that are in kids programming. One, of course, of the big notorious ones was in the original animated Lion King, when Simba, a fully grown adult Simba, kind of flops himself down because he's kind of depressed, and a big ball of dust kind of kicks up and starts to blow away in the wind. But as it blows away in the wind, the animators had the dust spelt the word sex, like S-E-X. And it turned out it was done on purpose. This is a little thing they threw in there. My favorite one, though, is from Animaniacs. And in a particular episode, Yakko, Wacko, and Dot are trying to solve a crime. And Yakko says, Dot, to his sister, get fingerprints. Get fingerprints. Go around the scene and get fingerprints. And then a second later, Dot goes, I found Prince. And they go over to her, and she's standing there holding, in a purple suit, Prince. She's holding the rock star Prince. The camera then cuts back to Yakko, who goes, no, fingerprints, fingerprints. And it goes back to Dot, and she goes, yeah, I don't think so. And I'm like, did they just do that?
Yeah.
They made a joke about a cartoon character anally invading the rock star Prince?
Wow.
I mean, I just couldn't believe it. But as you go back, as I would go back and start watching old, because a couple years ago, I got back on a kick of going back and watching more and more Animaniacs, especially with the nurse. They did a lot of very, very mature jokes.
Oh, I'm sure they did, especially on Animaniacs. But here's the thing. I can't think about Animaniacs. Did you see that thing? It was floating around Instagram where they had, how does the theme song go? They're wacky.
The Animaniacs.
No, they're wacky. They're zany. They're da-da-da-da-da.
The Animani, totally insaney.
Yeah, they're Animani. They're totally insaney. So somebody edited that with the girl from the Capitol riots with the piano scarf around her neck. and she was crying when she was like saying what happened to her.
I did see this.
And then they were like, they're wacky, they're zany. And she was like, they pushed me out and maced me. And if you haven't seen it, you just have to look up like Animaniacs Capital Insurrection. It is, I mean, for a very serious and not funny at all situation, it was a very welcome moment of levity that I certainly appreciated. My one, like, this is not a sexual reference at all, but like Saturday Night Live, Sesame Street was really good at doing that. Like, I remember there was this one episode that I saw, I was like watching with a niece or a nephew, and they were talking about the letter B, and they wanted to make it easy to remember. And so they were like, we put things into a song. Letter B, letter B. Oh, yeah. Letter B. And I love things like that, because as an adult, you can go, oh, I get that. It's a Beatles reference. It's a John Lennon reference. I get that. And I think that those kinds of things make it a little bit more palatable. Pixar is really good at doing that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, making a film that is animated and clearly designed to keep the interest of young people, but is also really smart so that parents are going to want to watch it 80,000 times with their kids.
Well, I mean, a great example that we talk about this one a lot around the show. A great example of that is The Incredibles. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, it's family friendly. Kids can be engaged, but kids aren't going to understand, you know, Mr. Incredible longing for his glory days back when he was saying, now he's got the responsibilities of a father. Do I have the same worth today that I had? Kids aren't going to understand that, right. But it was a great thing to appeal to adults too. Anyway, all right, we need to move on here. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Nathan. I'll be, again, Choky Chicken, ladies and gentlemen, Choky Chicken. All right, next up, Brooks Kirk writes, hey, John, you're right. Netflix has great original TV shows. Last night, my wife and I finished the 6-episode limited series Behind Her Eyes. And oh my God, the ending blew me away. I can't stop thinking about it. Highly recommend it. Seen it? Thoughts? It's Netflix, so I've never even heard of it.
I've never heard. Behind Her Eyes?
Behind Her Eyes.
What is that?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, maybe Netflix should take some of that $450 million that they're giving to Rian Johnson and maybe get an actual competent PR team, because I never hear about things coming out. Everything that's coming out on HBO Max, I'm aware of. Everything that's coming out
My
on
next
Disney
door
Plus,
neighbor is one of the top marketing people for Netflix film. And
Does he take a lot of days off? Is he home a lot? I'm just wondering.
It is so hard for me not to knock on his door and go, what are you doing all day? Because he's always working. He's always busy. I know that. He works very, very hard. But I'm like, why don't I know about any of these things?
Yeah, it happens all the time. Anyway, Brooks, thanks a lot for the recommendation, and I will keep my eyes open for that. All right, Behind Her Eyes. I will keep that in mind. All right, Astros winning 2021 pennant writes, I like to consider myself a manly man, but I have cried once before watching a movie. The part in Interstellar when Cooper finally sees his children and Matthew McConaughey's like, it's actually a really good scene. It actually really is. When Cooper finally sees his children and they are his age now, had me shedding a tear. What say you? You cried before watching a film? Which ones? Yes, I have cried before in, I believe, 3 or 4 movies. And it's never romance that makes me cry. It's never something devastatingly awful that makes me cry. The thing that usually gets me is overt signs of loyalty and friendship. That always gets me. So, and of honor. Honor gets me a lot. One that everybody laughs at me when I say this, but it's the first movie I remember ever crying in. And it was Julia Roberts' Rupert
Everett, My Best Friend's Wedding.
My Best Friend's Wedding. At the end of the wedding, at the end of the movie, she has failed to win over her best friend to love her, and her best friend marries somebody else. And
Cameron Diaz.
Cameron Diaz, that's right. And so she's now at the wedding, and she's totally supportive of them now. And her friend, played by Rupert Everett, her gay friend played by Rupert Everett, she gets on the phone with him. It's like blah, blah, blah. And then she looks up and he's there. He flew across the country because he knew his friend would need him. And I don't care what the fuck anybody else says. I get teary-eyed thinking about it to this day. It is stuff like that that gets me. The second time I cried in a movie was for the movie Best of the Best, with Chris Penn, who was Sean Penn's brother, Eric Roberts, who's Julia Roberts' cousin, James Earl Jones, and it's about Team USA Taekwondo team taking on the North Korean Taekwondo team. And at the end of it, you guys know it, Daehan, all beaten, limps across the aisle, takes his gold medal off and puts it on Tommy and says, I offer myself to you as your new brother. Tears. And then, of course, the ending of Life is Beautiful with Roberto Benigni.
Can we please, everyone, for the love of God, can we please normalize men crying? Like, can we just get over it? Everybody cries. It's the healthiest thing on the planet. I like to celebrate Friday Cry Days, which is where once a week I find something, whether it's the soundtrack to Hamilton, or whether it's a really sad commercial, or whether it's just a conversation that I have a heart-to-heart with Joey and we talk about, things. And I like to just have a good old cry, like a big baby cry, and I just get it all out. So I encourage all of you to find one day in your week and just go in a private room if you need to, but I don't care what is hanging or not hanging between your legs. I encourage all of you to just give yourself a good, hard cry. We all need it. We've all got a lot of stuff going on, and there ain't no better way to get it all out than to just cry it all out. So let's normalize male tears. Come on.
All right, next up. Restoring old, are you predicting new? Breaking IPs is the new hotness. All seriousness, within 3 years, Back to the Future reboot over under 50%. So we were talking yesterday about how one of the biggest trends in Hollywood right now is to take old IPs, be they characters or overall properties, and bringing them back. I mean, it's just been a huge thing for a number of years. Rebooting Back to the Future in the next 3 years, way under 50%. I mean, I'd say under 5%. I mean, the writer and producer of it have already said, not while we're still alive. Not gonna, and they're the rights holders. They're like, not while. Now, will there eventually be a Back to the Future reboot? Yeah, there will be eventually. But in the next 3 years, no chance. No chance. All right, next up. BK Dan also writes, John, have you seen Cinema Blend is posting pics of Robert Pattinson as James Bond? What are your guys' thoughts? If it is, it's just fan art, and I don't really care about news with fan art stuff. I don't really care about that stuff. Theoretically speaking, if Robert Pattinson would be cast as Bond, I would say this. Not the guy I would cast for it. I don't see him as Bond, but he is a tremendously gifted actor.
I also didn't see him as Batman. So
yeah, nobody guessed that, right? But I'm excited to see him as Batman. And hey, look, bottom line is he a terrifically talented actor? Robert Pattinson is a terrifically talented actor. So I would be surprised if he were Bond. And I don't think that's going to happen.
I am not interested in anyone playing Bond until Idris Elba has his shot at Bond.
He's not interested.
I don't care if he's interested or not. I don't care, Idris. You're Bond, and you're playing the fucking character.
You know what?
Do it.
He's not even
the people have spoken.
He's not my number one guy to play Bond.
Who?
My number one guy is an actor who was runner-up to play another big role that went to somebody else, and then later he got that role again, and he was also the runner-up to play James Bond to Daniel Craig. Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill was the runner-up.
Lord.
Henry Cavill was the runner-up to play Superman when Brandon Routh got the role. Then later, of course, he got to play Superman. And he was the runner-up to Daniel Craig to play James Bond. And after seeing Man from U.N.C.L.E., I'm like, this dude was born to play in spy movies. I totally think he was born to play in spy movies. So my guy would be Henry Cavill.
Let's not Jennifer Lawrence him. He's having his moment. Let's just how about this? Let's give Henry Cavill 10, 15 years. I don't mind a matured Henry Cavill. I don't want Henry Cavill now playing Bond. I wouldn't mind Henry Cavill in his 50s playing Bond. I like a more grizzled Bond, someone who's, been aged like a fine wine.
I disagree, because I think bringing in a new Bond, you got to bring in a Bond now that can be Bond for the next 12 years.
No, you don't.
I think you do. I really do. I think you want to bring in somebody that you can have play that role for 5 or 6 films. I think, Daniel Craig has kind of set that thing. Well, Pierce Brosnan appeared in 3 or 4? I can't remember if Pierce Brosnan appeared in 3 or 4. Daniel Craig, I believe this is his 5th?
Yeah, but wasn't Daniel Craig already in his early 50s or late 40s when he started playing that role?
I don't think he was. Hold on a second. Let me bring it up. First of all,
I feel like Daniel Craig has been 50 forever.
It does feel
he looks like that
forever.
hot guy, like that hot 50-year-old guy.
Okay, so he is 53 right now.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is. What year did Casino Royale release? Okay, so Casino Royale came out in 2006. So 14. So Henry Cavill is now basically the same age Daniel Craig was when he took over Bond. But you're right. It does feel like Craig's been 50 forever.
It feels like he's always been 50. Like, I can't think of a time when Daniel Craig was not 50. You know what I mean? I can't. Like, was Daniel Craig ever a teenager? There's no way.
I mean, even when you go back to him, the first time I saw Daniel Craig was in that Tomb Raider movie with Angelina Jolie. And even then, I mean, he looked...
That's like Maggie Smith. Maggie Smith was never in her 20s. She was always in her 70s.
She was.
I know, and she was a babe.
She was hot.
Her, Martha Stewart, Helen Mirren, babe. I get it.
All right.
But in my mind, Maggie Smith, Judi Dench. I mean, but also in my mind, Helen Mirren is still 25. So
did I ever? Chris Carr, our beloved Chris Carr.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I won't repeat it then. As long as you've heard the story, I won't repeat it.
I've heard the story, yeah.
All right, let's move on, guys. Sorry for those of you who don't know the story. We're not going to repeat it right now.
Tom and I don't have hall passes in our marriage because as actors, there is very much a possibility. Because I said to him, you don't want us to have hall passes because there is a very real possibility that I could get cast as Joe Manganiello's love interest in a movie that shoots in an island off the coast of Thailand for 3 months. And then guess what? I'm fucking Joe Manganiello. Like, that's the deal. That's what a hall pass is. But he has allowed me my Helen Mirren hall pass. He's like, okay.
Yeah, but Tom would probably brag about that.
Of course he would.
No, I mean about Joe Manganiello.
Oh, he probably would as
me and Joe, same taste.
Well, we do. I did tell him, I said, here's the thing. It can't be one-sided. I said, but if we're ever out and we see Joe and Sophia and they give us the nod, it's going down. Like, it's happening.
It's happening.
And Tom was like, yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm down.
So.
I'm down. Well, Joe watches the show, so I'm
Oh God. I was literally just about to say, I hope he doesn't watch it. I literally just started sweating. I'm kidding. Please don't think I'm weird and creepy. It's a joke.
No, everybody
it's
thinks
not a joke, but it's a joke.
You guys are the most awesome couple ever. All right, let's move on here. Got to keep going. Next up, Josh Mickle writes, one of two. With the recent Spider-Man 4 news, remember, it's not news, it's a rumor, but... wondering, should we have Sam Raimi Spider-Man or MCU Spider-Man? Why not have it all at the same time? No, that would never work. Anyway, Spider-Man prints money for Sony. No Spider-Man live-action film has ever made less than $700 million. Let Sony continue to make non-MCU films. Let Marvel continue to make MCU Spider-Man films. Lest we forget, Marvel makes the Spider-Man MCU films, but Sony is getting a big majority of that box office money for the solo films. Why not everybody wins? No, actually, everybody loses. Marvel has it very clear in the agreement they have is they will make live action Spider-Man, but Sony cannot make live action Spider-Man at the same time. Marvel doesn't want to have a competing live action Spider-Man running around out there while there is value in exclusivity. There is absolute value in exclusivity. And to say, if you want to see live action Spider-Man for now, you got to see Tom Holland in the MCU Spider-Man. There is absolute value in that. And so that's why as long as Sony is allowing Marvel to make live action Spider-Man in their movies, Sony won't be able to make live action Spider-Man in their universe too. And that makes sense, and that's good business. And it would just kind of muddy the water. So one live action Spider-Man at a time. Now, some of you may then say, well, John, you like the idea of this standalone Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves, the Batman movie. I do, but that's all under the same roof. And and now Warner Brothers is saying that's their multiverse and everything like that. So, and even then we don't have Ben Affleck still running around playing Batman. God, I wish he was, but he's not. So anyway, that's probably why, Joshua. That's probably why. All right, next up. We've got Capri Grant who writes, Sony just made a deal with Netflix, to stream all of their 2022 and beyond movies after their theatrical runs finish. Do you think Sony spoke with Disney first about the potential of streaming their Marvel IP on Disney Plus or Hulu before going to Netflix fully? Listen, I think when Sony made the decision that instead of launching Sony Plus, we're going to create content and sell to the highest bidder now that these streaming wars are going on. So do I think they talked to Disney Plus? Absolutely they did. Did they talk to Paramount Plus? Absolutely. Did they talk to Peacock? Absolutely. And according to Deadline, they don't name names, but Deadline just says all the major players made bids. All the major players made bids. They all wanted that Sony property on their streaming network. But Netflix put in the most generous offer, $1 billion off the top, more revenue on a per film basis, first refusal on direct to streaming movies with an 18-month window. It was just the best offer they got. But yes, I guarantee you they had those conversations with Disney as well. All right, next up, we've got BK Dan who writes, John, you keep saying you're a nobody. Stop, please. 240,000 subscribers does not make you somebody, or it does make you somebody. 240,000 subscribers means more like 500,000 people will watch you. No, listen, don't get me wrong. Like, yeah, we have 3, 4, 5 million views a month of our videos. That's great. I'm incredibly thankful for that. But make no mistake about it, that is still infinitesimal compared to a lot of other YouTube channels. Like, there are real YouTube celebrities. Like, I got friends of mine, Benny and Rafi Fine, the Fine brothers, right? They get as many views in a day that I get in a month. I've got other friends. I got other people I know. I mean, like, no. Make no mistake about it. I love what we do. I love our community. It's awesome. I geek out inside every time we're out in public and somebody comes up to say they like the show. That's awesome. But in the grand scheme of things, I am absolutely insignificant in this field. I am the smallest of the small. And you know what? I'm totally comfortable with that. It's not like I have some complex about it. I'm totally comfortable. I get to do what I love. I get to do it with a fantastic community. I get to do it with good people and good friends who come over with their even better dogs and sit around and chat about things. And so I love it. And I'm totally comfortable being that, BK. I'm totally comfortable being that. All right, let's do the next one up here. Nico writes, hey, John, I feel like a minority here, but I still to this day wish that Andrew gets a chance to play in The Amazing Spider-Man 3. I thought Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man. To get the closure he deserves, he really did an amazing job. Put his heart into that role. My favorite Spider-Man / Peter Parker out of them all. I got to tell you, while I didn't love the second Amazing Spider-Man, I still thought Andrew Garfield was a terrific Peter Parker / Spider-Man.
I really like Andrew Garfield. I like him in everything he does.
He should have been nominated for an Academy Award for Social Network.
I loved him in Social Network.
He brought the humanity to that. In this movie that was filled with these heartless characters, like he was the humanity in that movie. I loved him in Heartbreak Ridge. Mm-hmm. Did you see that new trailer that just came out with him and one of the girls from Stranger Things where he plays a YouTube social influencer guy that's a little bit crazy?
No.
The trailer just dropped. Guys in the live chat, do you guys remember the name of that movie? Do you know the name of that movie that we're talking about? The Humble. Maya Hawke is the girl who's in it with him. Yes.
Oh, I do love Maya Hawke.
But what's the name of the movie where he plays the social influencer? The trailer just
Mainstay?
Mainstream. That's the name of it. Mainstream. The trailer is really intriguing. And
it's a series or film?
I believe it's a film. Mm-hmm. So I am very much, and thank you to Kevin and Jam and Highly Flavored and everybody and Evelyn writing in Mainstream. Very, very interesting trailer. So something for us to keep our eyes on. All right. Next up. We got Sergeant Ward who writes, it was just announced that Paul Dano, Paul Dano is going to play Steven Spielberg's father in the semi-biopic alongside Michelle Williams and Seth Rogen. I'm shocked this movie's not getting enough attention for a Spielberg movie. I'm excited. What are your thoughts? Well, let's be honest. Biopics are not the biggest buzz-inducing movies, right? They can be awesome, but they're not like well in advance buzz-inducing movies. They haven't even started shooting this movie. So wait till the movie's shot and they start marketing it. But yeah, the movie is really Steven Spielberg's love letter to his mom, who died not too long ago. Mm-hmm. Fabulous woman. I had a chance to meet her.
Yes, at her restaurant.
That's right.
Milk and Honey.
That's right.
On Pico.
While we were promoting, I was having a meeting there about our movie, The Anniversary, and I had a chance to be brought there, and incredible. And
I was there for a friend's bar mitzvah.
Really?
Bar mitzvah.
I didn't know you had visited the restaurant before.
Yeah,
too.
It's a wonderful kosher restaurant called Milk and Honey on Pico in Los Angeles. If any of you are interested, and you don't have to be kosher to eat there, obviously.
This movie sounds really intriguing. It's Steven Spielberg, who's now obviously has been at a place in his career for 20 years now that he can do whatever he wants. The addition of Paul Dano. Whenever Paul Dano comes up, and I know some of you might get sick of hearing this, but I cannot help but mention the fact that I believe the movie There Will Be Blood could have been, should have been a career exploding role for Paul Dano. His performance in that movie is unbelievable. Unfortunately for Paul Dano, he was starring alongside the greatest actor of all time in Daniel Day-Lewis, who gave, in my opinion, his greatest performance of all time. And so whenever we think of There Will Be Blood, and it's completely understandable, we think of Daniel Day-Lewis in maybe I consider to be the greatest performance ever given by a male lead actor in any movie ever. So we don't talk about Paul Dano. And it's really a shame because I think he is that good. I really do. I think he's phenomenal. He's not your typical, you're talking about Phoebe a little bit earlier. He's not your typical Hollywood A-lister, chiseled good looks, Brad Pitt sort of, but the dude can act. Like in Prisoners, obviously in There Will Be Blood, the one about the Beach
Looper.
Boys. Looper, I loved him in Looper. I thought he was so good, and it's so different side. I love this guy, so I love the news of him being in this Steven Spielberg thing. All right,
really quick. Speaking of Steven Spielberg, I meant to say this earlier. Big was originally written for Harrison Ford to star in.
I never knew that either.
Because Steven Spielberg's sister wrote the screenplay. Spielberg was supposed to direct it, and Harrison Ford was supposed to star in it. When Spielberg and Harrison Ford dropped out, that's when the script landed on Penny Marshall's desk.
That's amazing. I love these background stories. Listen, the Cummings Classroom. I love it.
That's what I'm here for.
All right, next up, we got an anonymous viewer who writes, "Hey, John, about the $50 videos you used to make. Have you considered a new Patreon tier for personalized question videos where you set a limited amount available each month? That way you have more income coming in, but won't get overwhelmed." Here's the thing. I've thought of a lot of different things for our Patreon. And you guys notice I don't even promote our Patreon very much here because we have a great core of Patreon supporters who've been supporting this channel for years now. But I never want to make our Patreon, the way I like to approach Patreon, and everybody will tell me I'm making a mistake doing it this way, which I totally respect, but I don't like running my Patreon as if I'm selling a service. You know what I mean? Our Patreon campaign is for people who just enjoy our programming and they just want to support the programming. And they have been the backbone of what we've been able to do. Like, it's been because of our Patreon supporters that even in high times and in low times, we've been able to pay like Ray and pay Robert Meyer Burnett and do all these sorts of things and allowed us to get a new piece of gear. That's just always been there. No matter how high or how low the YouTube algorithm goes or whatever, our Patreon supporters are there and they really support and keep this thing going. And I don't think it's bad that any other Patreon other people running Patreon campaigns, nothing against them saying, hey, at this tier, you get this, and at this tier, you get this. Nothing wrong with that. That's the way Patreon's designed to be used. For me personally, I don't want our Patreon campaign to feel like you're buying a service. I really do want to keep it exclusively as this is an avenue. If you're somebody who is like an OG follower here, or you're really a core supporter of our show and you want to make sure we're able to continue to make the videos at the way we're able to do it, and you want to become a Patreon supporter just for that reason alone, I like to keep our Patreon campaign as that. And which is an additional reason why I'm always so incredibly grateful to our Patreon supporters, because they don't get an exclusive newsletter every month, and they don't get a signed autograph picture of John's ass every month, although that could probably raise a lot of money.
Well, I absolutely agree.
And you know what? We were talking the other day. Some people brought it up. It's true. Some people suggest I start an OnlyFans. Now what I said at the time was the reason I don't do OnlyFans is because with great filthy comes great responsibility. I don't want to be the cause for marriages across the country to break up.
I understand.
But my wife gave me a great idea. She goes, John, you should start a reverse OnlyFans. I'm like, what's that? She goes, you tell everybody that unless they send you $10 a month, you're going to send them dick pics.
You're going to spam them with dick pics.
Campea dick pics coming everywhere unless you send me $10 a month. I'm going to be rich.
I mean, I think that Anne has the, even though I've never seen any of the tasteful nudes that I have no doubt exist, she definitely has some photos that are, I'm like, okay, I would pay for this.
I'm going to tell you a story. I totally shouldn't tell this story, but I'm going to tell the story. She's
not watching.
So, back when we made the anniversary, I don't even know if you know this, but there used to be these cameras that I think they were called flip cameras. They were really popular for a while.
I had one.
Yeah, I had one too, right? So, anyway, our friend Soul Video, one of my best friends, he was our script supervisor on the movie. And I also kind of put him in charge of capturing a lot of behind the scenes footage of us making the anniversary, right? So one day on set, I'm like, here, take the flip cam and just go around as we're shooting these scenes and stuff like that. Just get a lot of behind the scenes footage. So about 15 minutes later, from another room across the building, we hear everybody on set hears Soul scream out, "Oh my God!" And he comes running back in the room. I had forgotten that maybe Ann and I had maybe used that camera to film some together time, and I had totally forgot that it was
There's a Pam and Tommy tape of John and Ann.
There was a Pam and Tommy tape.
And Soul accidentally saw it.
Stumbled across it. So it's like, yeah. So yeah. And Soul is like, we will never speak of this again. I'm like, yeah. So anyway, there's a Pam and Tommy.
But see, here's what I know about you though. Is that, I haven't seen everybody's home videos, but I've seen a few. And here's my thing is I'm like, if you're gonna do a home video, make sure you have a camera that has like automatic focus. Make sure that you have proper lighting. Make sure you understand your angles. That's all I ask. I don't expect it to be of professional quality. There's a reason why it says amateur on it, and I click on that. But I would like it to at least be amateur with some fundamental understandings of the basics of filmmaking.
Well, I don't think when they're making it, they're thinking of the audience experience.
I highly recommend everyone getting a masterclass.com subscription. Ken Burns does a wonderful masterclass on documentary storytelling. Just like watch a few of those episodes and then take those lessons and bring them into your bedroom or your kitchen or wherever you're making your home videos. That's all I ask.
All right.
Is that too much?
Let's move on. Sorry about that, guys.
Everyone in the chat is asking for release the Campea gun.
Remember, my reverse OnlyFans, send me $10.
Reverse only.
You're getting Campea ass in your inbox. All right. Alan writes, hey, John, Loki series comes out on my birthday. That's a good birthday gift. And I love the recent trailer. I noticed that that were various scenes that were in color palette of Infinity Stones, and I doubt that this is just a coincidence. Also, what do you think Kang will show up? Would make sense. No, I don't think Kang's going to show up. I think this thing was already mostly into production by the time they even announced that they had cast Kang, who's going to be in Ant-Man 3. So no, I don't think Kang's going to show up. Doesn't mean it's impossible. I don't think he will. I do think it is coincidental about the color palette thing. After all, there were 6 stones representing 6 colors, and there are only so many colors. So I do think that was coincidental. But I don't know. Maybe we'll watch the movie or we'll watch the series and we'll find out differently. But no, I do not think Kang is going to show up. Not impossible, though, but I would bet $5 against it. All right, BK Dan writes, John, going back to Falcon and Winter Soldier, my dream dance-off battle, Zemo and Star-Lord, what's yours? Oh, that's a good one. Did you see You saw last week's episode?
I have not seen last night's episode.
No, last week's.
Yeah, I saw last week's.
So obviously the biggest thing on the internet all week has been Zemo in the dance club. Disney being the brilliant marketing minds that they are. Because Daniel Bruhl, who plays Zemo, he actually said, we actually filmed about like 2 or 3 minutes of me dancing in a club. So Disney, seeing that the internet was totally being swept by Dancing Zemo, their commercial for this week's episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier was just a minute of Zemo dancing in the club. And it's just, so all the whole commercial is different shots of Zemo doing different dance moves, and then Falcon and Winter Soldier Fridays on Disney Plus. It was brilliant.
It's so funny what will capture people's attention. Like, what is the thing that, as they're editing it together, just like, okay, he's like going through the club, no big deal, whatever. And then all of a sudden, everybody like freaks out about this one specific moment. And they go, okay, clearly we need to exploit that. Okay, let's go.
And by the way, guys, later today, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so about 2 hours after we're done this show, we're doing our weekly Falcon and the Winter Soldier spoiler discussion. Make sure you guys come back and join us for that. Side note, no spoilers. Aaron, maybe if not the best, then it's the best or second best episode of anything Disney Plus has done so far.
Really?
That episode.
Because I gotta be honest, this show is really pissing me off.
I wasn't a big fan of last week's episode. Like, I liked last week's episode, but I wasn't a big fan. This week's episode is stellar. Absolutely phenomenal. It's the fulfillment. This week's episode to me is the fulfillment of the promise of what a Falcon and Winter Soldier can be. And it just hit every note. It hit every note. And I think if you felt some frustration with the show, as I felt a little bit, this is the one that will put a big smile on your face.
I mean, I'm sticking it out, but like, how much of Captain America are we seeing in this episode?
All I'm going to say is this. He's so good in this episode. So good. I don't want to say much. Now, I know a couple of you guys.
I don't know about that.
Maybe not. So make sure you go and watch Falcon and Winter Soldier before our 2 p.m. open spoiler discussion. He's so good in this. And Io is so good in this. And Bucky is so good in this. And I've never liked Sam more in anything in the MCU than I liked him in this episode. And it's just anyway, I don't want to get into it, but I was like buzzing when the episode was over last night. Like, me, Ann, and Ryan watched it last night, and we were all just like, oh my God. So anyway, sorry.
I'll let you know what I think.
Yes, please do let me know what you think. But I personally loved it. All right, next up. We got Jonah writes, Spider-Man 4 would be a good in-between film after the upcoming Spider-Man films and could buy some time to plan Tom Holland's future with the franchise. I mean, that's true too. Like, because if Sony decided they wanted to carry on with Spider-Man after their deal with Marvel ends, and they want to continue to use Tom Holland, they could say that this other Spider-Man movie, would just be to, hold people over, is like an Elseworld kind of thing. That could work. I mean, again, I still don't think it's going to happen, but it could work. Jonah also writes, the recent Star Wars films support the argument that reviving old IP with the same actors and actresses is appealing to audiences. Oh, and there have been tons since then, Jonah. I mean, it's not just the Star Wars thing. It's a ton of other properties. I mean, Mortal Kombat, for heaven's sakes, is a great example of that. Look how excited people are for that one too, Jonah. Jonah also writes, this may be a silly analysis, but I wonder if Sony is looking at the thousands of Tobey Maguire memes on the internet and are interpreting that as audience interest in seeing more of the Sam Raimi Spider-Verse. No. What they're seeing is just the pure excitement of people online, because whenever the idea of Tobey Maguire even appearing, because there are rumors that he's going to appear in the new Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, which I think will happen, but we'll see. A lot of people remember those Spider-Man movies. Spider-Man 2, to me, for a long time, could have been considered the greatest comic book movie of all time for a period of time. Mm-hmm. But are you excited? Like, okay, take out dealing with his kids and his wife. Do you have any interest in seeing it?
In seeing Spider-Man into the Diaperverse? Spider-Man into the Diaperverse. That is what we're calling it.
So, no interest in that.
No, sure. Why not? Like, am I jumping out of my seat to go see it? Not necessarily. But you know what? You also know that, like, of all the superheroes, Spider-Man is not the one that I'm going to jump to go see for obvious reasons. For 8 obvious reasons. I'm not going to be excited about going to see that movie. And that is my own cross that I bear. It has no relevance to like what is good, what is popular, what other people should be interested in. It's just my psychosis of my insane arachnophobia that prevents me from being a true Spider fan.
I have never been physically harmed in a movie theater the way Aaron Cummings physically harmed me.
It's true.
I took her to see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah. Well, it was a great movie, though.
Great movie.
But I totally forgot.
Well, first of all, I didn't know that it was animated.
Well, yes, that's right. That's right. Yes.
We get our popcorn and then we sit down and I go, so one of my friends said something about this movie being animated, and John goes, yeah, it is. And I was like, what? We're not watching, this isn't live. And no, it's not like that.
Nope. It's animated.
All right.
But I totally forgot. There's this quick scene where we see the animated cartoon spider that bites Peter, right? And so I totally forgot it's on screen for a second. Aaron, that little cartoon thing.
A second, more like 5 minutes of like 8,000 eyes staring on a 70-foot screen with like big hairy, legs. Like, oh God.
So it shows up on screen, and I totally forgot about it. And instantly I feel this searing pain in my arm as these claws go like clasp onto my arm. Like, I forgot about this.
I Wolverined him.
Yes. That's like, exactly
what are we watching? Why am I here?
It was a total Wolverine. It was a total Wolverine. All right. Let's move on here. Andrew S. writes, my suggestion yesterday to do away with humans in the Monsterverse actually wasn't because I thought the presence was the problem in Godzilla vs. Kong. Bad writing, convoluted plot were. I'm more of suggesting to switch up the formula a bit. My favorite parts with Kong are usually just seeing him live. Chat, eat octopus in Skull Island, his morning routine in Godzilla vs. Kong. So I thought it'd be interesting to see a film from this point of view as a main character. That would be incredibly boring after about 10 minutes. And let visual storytelling take over, hopefully with an engaging story. Have humans if you must. Just put them as secondary supporting characters. Think of it as a similar formula as the movie WALL-E. Yeah, but WALL-E at some point they had to bring in the human characters to frame the context of the story. Anyway, yes, there were still humans in that, but the movie was by and large focused around a robot and his point of view of things happening around him. That is true. But again, at some point, the human aspect of it had to framework the entire movie. At some point, you could do that for a while. See, I love seeing Kong walking around, kill a giant squid and suck it down. That's cute, but that's 10 seconds. I love seeing Kong fighting a flying dinosaur, ripping its head off and sucking out its brains. But that's only a finite period of time. I do not believe you can stretch that out into an hour and 45-minute movie. I just don't think you can. I just think what needs to be done is the people Warner Brothers hires to write these movies and Legendary hires to write these movies just have to do a much better job of writing the human characters. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch Godzilla vs. Kong yet. If you and Tom have yet.
No. You said that like the Millie Bobby Brown character was pointless.
Useless.
And that's the thing is that I agree. You're absolutely right. If you're going to have human characters, just like if you're going to have any characters, give them a purpose for being there.
Yes.
What is the reason why you're walking across the room? Everyone has to have a motivation to be doing anything. And if you're just having humans in there because like, oh, this actor is really hot right now, so let's throw them in there, then the audience is smart enough to be able to see through that. And people just go, and then all of a sudden, you're not adding anything to the film. You're actually taking away, because every time the person sees that actor or that character, that they're wanting something from them. They're wanting that character to prove why they're on screen right now.
Yeah.
To prove their value. And if you give an actor dialogue that contributes nothing to the forward movement of the plot, then you're not doing anything. And I think that the audience is smart enough to be able to sense that, and then they feel like they've been taken advantage of.
All right, next up. This comes to us from Ruben W., who writes, question for Aaron. I've been accepted into graduate school to get my Master's of Fine Arts in acting.
Congratulations.
Any advice for drama school? Also, I had my first pilot audition self-tape. Any advice for those, for me, like me going forward? What was the process like for you? Thanks a bunch. And by the way, Austin Wallace sends in a super chat badge in live chat. Thank you, Austin. So, what advice would you give somebody, getting, this guy's now got his master's degree, for those actors, especially in this
He just
era.
got accepted into film
school. Oh yeah,
school,
got
right?
accepted in there.
Or into drama school.
Like people making self-tapes for auditions, which obviously you've had to do a lot, especially lately. But what's your advice for stuff like that?
Well, my first piece of advice is there is a podcast called That One Audition with Alicia Oxy.
Which you've been on.
I've been on. It is an absolute treasure trove of interviews of working actors. And it essentially goes down the rabbit hole of how they maneuvered through their career. Anyone in this industry understands that we do not have a linear path. It's not like becoming a doctor where you go to get your undergrad and then you go to med school and you do your residency, blah, 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 and then you become a doctor. No, we have many different twists and turns, and everyone has a different story of how they got their foot in the door, how they kept their foot in the door, and then how they swung the door wide open if they ended up doing so. So That One Audition is an incredible podcast that will give you so much more wisdom than I could ever give to you. And she also has episodes specifically about self-tapes. The biggest thing about a self-tape is give yourself a designated area where you do your self-tapes. Tom and I, we do ours in our guest bathroom, where I have a curtain that is an appropriate color for me and Tom. Our skin is very pasty white Irish complexion with pink undertones, and we both have blue eyes. And so I have a color curtain that works well with our skin tone that is always hanging there so that we can set it up at a moment's notice. We have a ring light. Get yourself good lighting, a nice background. You can do it on your iPhone. You don't need to invest in an expensive camera. Right now, everyone's doing it on the iPhones. The iPhone 11 and on is great quality. And you can even then edit your audition tapes right there in iMovie and send it on to your reps or post it on Vimeo, always with a password. But as far as drama school goes, I'm so happy that you're doing that. That's a great avenue. Remember that drama school is not going to prepare you for getting a job. So drama school is going to help you understand more about your craft, but it's not a guarantee that you will get a job. So while you are there, have conversations with your professors about like, what is the best way for me to go forward and actually get a job? What's the best way for me to get an agent? Make sure that your school is doing showcases for agents and managers and casting directors upon your graduation. And then also the second you graduate, strike while the iron is hot. You are never going to be as exciting to people as an actor as you are the second you graduate from drama school. They will give you the chances that you will not get 2 and 5 years later. So those first couple years after drama school, really take every opportunity that comes your way. I wish you nothing but the best. Absolutely. Check out that podcast, That One Audition, and keep me posted. And thanks so much for the question. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you for writing that in, man. And by the way, Magnus sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you for that, Magnus. And you know what, guys? We're going to wrap up on those sage wise words of wisdoms right now, because we are cutting today's show just a little bit short because I need to rest up the voice before we do our Falcon and Winter Soldier open spoiler discussion. Again, that's going to be at 2 p.m. Los Angeles time, so about 2.5 hours from now. Make sure you guys come back and watch us after you go and watch this week's episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, there are still more questions to go. After Ruben, we have Russell, Brooks, the great Grapthar's Hammer. Do not worry, guys. I'm going to do a big, long companion video this weekend, probably Sunday. Have that go up on channel. We will get through all the remaining questions. We don't have tons and tons left to go here. So we were going to get through all the remaining questions. That'll be in a companion video on Sunday. Guys, So that will do it for us for now. I want to thank Aaron Cummings, of course, for being here again. Aaron, where can people follow you and Joey Bishop online?
Oh, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter and on Clubhouse at Aaron L. Cummings. So please check us out there. And also, I may not be here for the next 2 weeks. I don't know. I need to talk to you about it. Well, I finally have decided to get over my fear of improv.
Spiders? Oh.
Never. My fear of improv, and I have signed up to take classes at UCB, the Upright Citizens Brigade.
That's right. I remember you telling me about
that.
that.
They have an online intensive, so I'm gonna jump my feet in and go for it. So that's gonna be the next 2 weeks. I'll see if I can figure it out schedule wise.
We'll work something out.
But if I'm not here, it's only because I am honing my craft to better serve my art. Thank you for having me, John.
What we should all do every day. And guys, of course, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter and everything right there at John Campea. That's when you guys. Guys, thanks so much for spending part of your day here with us. Special thanks to all you guys who did send in those live comments and questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us here involved with the John Campea Show, thank you guys very, very much for that support. Okay, guys, remember, do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and take care of the people around you. I'll see you guys back here again in about 2.5 hours for the Falcon and Winter Soldier open spoiler discussion. Thanks a lot for being here, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.